Well, I hope you all had a fantastic Thanksgiving. I want to start today checking in on what Trump was up to and then what Putin was up to. And the Putin part of this story is a rather frightening one. But first, you did have this video going around while America is bracing for what is to come, a potentially maybe inevitably disastrous situation in the form of a Trump presidency, him announcing what that's going to look like in the form of these tariffs we'll talk about later. Trump was bopping and having the time of his life with Elon Musk. These two have become inseparable. It's kind of, it's almost strange, I have to say. But meanwhile, in Russia, Vladimir Putin was delivering this message. And I want to play this video for you. Listen to what Putin's saying and read between the lines. While you're watching this, please do click the subscribe button if you haven't yet.
President Trump, a smart and experienced person, will come up with a solution, especially given that he has gone through quite an ordeal of fighting to reclaim the Oval Office. Well, probably just like me, you are amazed not by the fact that absolutely uncivilized means had been used against Trump, all the way up to assassination attempts, numerous assassination attempts. And I think he's not safe even now. The history of the United States has known many cases, but I think President Trump is a smart person and a cautious one, I hope. But what amazed me most, that in fighting him, not only Trump was subjected to humiliating court procedures, accusations and so on, but his family was attacked as well, his children was attacked. Gangsters don't do this in Russia. When criminal gangs fight, they don't touch children and women. It's men who fight among themselves. But those guys stooped as low as that. I think this is this looks so bad that it only reconfirms how low the political system of the United States has fallen.
That whole video, to me, was rather disturbing. It's exactly what Trump thinks he wants to hear, but what Putin is doing there is very intentional. Before I give my take, as a reminder, the person that I think we should have elected as president instead of Donald Trump, Vice President Harris, at her DNC speech, identified exactly why Trump shouldn't be president for so many reasons, one of them being that he's able to be manipulated by people like Putin for Putin's interests in the way that you saw in that video. But first, here's Harris.
I will not cozy up to tyrants and dictators like Kim Jong-un who are rooting for Trump. Because, you know, they know he is easy to manipulate with flattery and favors. They know Trump won't hold autocrats accountable because he wants to be an autocrat himself. And as president, I will never waver in defense of America's security and ideals, because in the enduring struggle between democracy and tyranny, I know where I stand and I know where the United States belongs.
rather tragic watching that now. But she's exactly correct. She mentions flattery and favors and how just by saying to Trump and about Trump what he wants to hear, you can bring him over to your side. The fact that there's some ideological alignment there in the authoritarian characteristics also helps in Putin's manipulation of Trump or Trump siding with Putin on things. But definitely, as you saw in that video, it's so ominous. Well, number one, him saying that he doesn't think Trump is safe right now. But I think even more important than that is how he's weaving into his statement about how a very smart Trump is going to find a solution, which we'll address in a second. He's delivering the very talking points that Trump does about Trump's legal cases and saying that the U.S. political system has fallen so far, not as shown by the presence of Trump, but as shown by the fact that Trump got himself into legal trouble. But as Putin articulates it, or as Trump articulates it, that Trump's been targeted so unfairly. So what Putin's doing there, you think he actually believes that? No. But he's putting that out publicly so that Trump will watch this video and go, see, Putin thinks I'm also being treated so unfairly. None of our Western allies say that about me because it's not true. And then he's more likely to be far more favorable to Putin than before. And then on this, Trump is the smart, experienced man that Putin needs to find a solution. Again, if you're MAGA and you're thinking, we told you so. Why is it that Putin's the one saying that? The guy who started this whole thing. Some of you struggle to remember that and you blame Ukraine for some reason. Or you blame NATO. Or Biden. But Putin every single day decides to continue the war by continuing his invasion, occupying a sovereign country's territory and claiming it as his own. And he believes that Trump is the guy to find the best solution for him. Do you think that solution includes anything that's fair for Ukraine? Because even reportedly what we're getting out of the Trump camp as to the path to peace is a path to peace that is unjust and temporary. Meaning, let's give Putin what he wants and what he currently occupies. And then he'll promise Trump, smart, experienced Trump, as Putin said, that's where it stops. But really, Putin can just recover, his military can recoup, and they can continue. And then maybe Trump, if he were still president, says, okay, well, now that's the line where you have to stop. And the question is, when does it actually stop? When he invades a NATO country? This is a clear pattern, as I've gone through with all of you, of Putin's behavior. And Trump, through flattery, as Vice President Harris said, is able to be manipulated into thinking otherwise. Just because Putin's willing to go, they behave worse than Russian gangsters in the United States to Trump. Trump's the biggest victim. But he's so smart. And it's why, for so long, this sort of behavior, this sort of manipulation from Putin has worked so well on Trump. And Trump then says stuff like this.
Was doing, and now he's backing a woman that I know very well, a woman that is not capable of doing this job. I know her very well. She's not tough enough, she's not smart enough, and she wasn't respected enough. She cannot do this job. She's not going to be able to deal with President Xi. She's not going to be able to deal with Putin and Kim Jong-un and all of the people the very fine people you have to deal with. Was doing.
Very fine people. Very fine people who invade countries and slaughter thousands of citizens. Also, please stop framing the invasion of Ukraine as a difficult to understand, complicated in its characteristics, conflict in Ukraine, which people describe as a war in Ukraine that we got to figure out how we can get a good solution for Putin so that he can finally get out of this war he doesn't want to be in. He could be out of it in any moment. Now, the path to peace is complicated, but it's not handing to Putin what he'd like, because that's incentivizing further war. Trump also said this one time.
Putin, very smart. Now he's had, and probably a bad year. Putin.
Probably a bad year is the end of that clip. I don't know why I cut off like that. But then you have this at one of his first rallies of his campaign.
I used to talk to Putin. I got along well with Putin. I used to talk to Putin about it. It's something he certainly had in his mind. Never even talked about it. For 4 years, you didn't even hear about it. As soon as I was out or left, or however you want to describe that catastrophe, they started putting soldiers on the border. But even then, he didn't want to do it. He wanted to get a peace. Now it looks like he'll end up probably getting the whole thing. But I've never seen anything like it, what's happened. And if you saw the other day with President Xi, smart, top of his game. President Putin, smart, very smart people, standing there talking about the world order for the next 100 years. That's one of the saddest things you can imagine, one of the saddest.
And it is a very frightening time, because we all know how Trump's going to react to that Putin video. He's going to love it. It's going to be more reason to give Putin the benefit of the doubt, to side with him over our intelligence communities, to favor him in peace negotiations. And while Trump can't unilaterally make a decision about how Ukraine acts in this war, the United States does have a lot of leverage. And so the coming months will be crucial in the future of Ukraine and in the future of European stability and global stability. But Putin thinks Trump is a victim like Trump thinks he's a victim. So Trump's going to favor him much more because he is that easy to be manipulated. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Support the show by clicking that join button below, which gives you access to the daily members only bonus show.